During a touching funeral, the maid's son revealed an incredible secret about the millionaire's legacy that shattered everything. Clara stood among the crowd of townsfolk, her heart heavy with both sorrow and trepidation. The massive oaks around the old cemetery swayed in the gentle breeze, their branches casting long shadows much like the stories that whispered through the tightly wound community about Harold Whitmore. He was a man they labeled a recluse, wealthy yet invisible, leaving them to speculate on his life of solitude. Now, he lay in a polished mahogany casket, and Clara could feel the judgment of the attendees pressing down on her like the sweltering summer heat. She straightened her back, clenching her fists to summon strength as she thought of Kevin, who stood beside her, a young man grappling with the pressures of being the son of a maid. It wasn't easy for him, but Clara was determined to give him a better life, to shield him from the stigma of her job. The whispers around them seemed to slice through the air like knives, each one dissecting her integrity and role in the grand mansion. She wished she could show them that her worth extended beyond the bounds of her occupation. But here, at the funeral, all anyone saw was the maid as the eulogies began. Clara's heart raced. Each word spoken was steeped in platitudes that neither revealed nor addressed Harold's hidden depths. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as attendees shared their versions of Harold's life, all tinged with speculation and envy. Clara's chest tightened. She hoped they wouldn't leave with their old perceptions intact, the shadows of their biases still looming large. Then, to everyone's shock, Kevin rose. His voice wavered as he cleared his throat, but when he spoke, he was steady. Mr. Whitmore wasn't just a rich man. He was a secret guardian to this town, to us. Gasps spread through the crowd like wildfire. Clara's heart soared and sank within the same breath. She watched as Kevin continued, revealing that Harold had anonymously supported local families, funding scholarships for students, helping small businesses stay afloat, and even covering medical bills for those too proud to ask for help. The air was thick with disbelief, the gentle rustle of leaves punctuating the shockwaves of Kevin's revelations. As they processed the news, Clara felt hope bloom within her, mirroring the longing for change. Maybe this was the key to breaking down the walls of judgment that suffocated their town. Could the story of kindness and camaraderie that lay hidden in propriety change hearts? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fascination and confusion rippled through the crowd as they began to question everything they thought they knew. How could they have underappreciated someone who had given so much? Clara felt a rush of adrenaline, a fierce determination igniting within her. She couldn't let Kevin's courage fade into whispers. Would the town allow itself to acknowledge Harold's compassion, or slip back into their comfortable misconceptions, unwilling to change their old ways? As the crowd buzzed into a heated discussion, Clara knew that the heart of this community was on the brink of transformation. But would they reach across social divides? Or would the chasm of judgment simply swallow them whole? The question lingered in the air, drawing them all closer together, waiting for the answer to unfold. Legacy that shattered everything. Kevin's voice continued to resonate through the dense air. With each word, it seemed the weight of the past lifted just a little. Clara watched as eyes in the crowd flicked between Kevin and Harold's casket. Some still held skepticism, while others began to nod as if awakening from a long slumber. The reality of Harold's hidden generosity challenged their preconceptions, and Clara saw anguish mixed with relief in their faces. Why didn't we know? Someone near the back of the crowd muttered. It was a question that hung in the air, loud enough for Kevin to hear. He paused, then looked out at the sea of expressions that ranged from indignant to pensive. Because he wanted to remain a secret, Kevin replied, his voice steady and full of sincerity. He believed kindness should be done quietly, not for praise. And maybe he thought it was easier this way for both him and us. A murmur rose, growing louder as people stepped closer, leaning in as if to draw in every word. This was new territory for them, a realization of their own misconceptions about wealth and worth. Clara felt a flicker of hope that perhaps they would begin to change, to understand that worth wasn't tied to social status. That as Kevin spoke, Clara's mind wandered. She remembered the countless evenings spent in the Whitmore mansion, where she observed Harold working quietly in his study, often lost in thought. He had the means to help so many and chose to do so without fanfare. The reason behind his anonymity became a testament she wanted to share. But could she? Would the townsfolk truly see his actions for what they were? Then, another figure emerged from the crowd. Clara recognized him instantly. Tommy, the owner of the local diner, who had often stolen glances her way or been dismissive of her presence. As he stepped forward, Clara held her breath. Tommy cleared his throat, fidgeting as he hesitated. "I didn't know all of this," he finally admitted, his voice strained. "I thought he was just a miser, an old ghost. But if he really helped us, then maybe we owed him more than this." He gestured at the casket, his face flushing with guilt. "Yes," came a voice from the back, a woman Clara recognized as one of the families that had benefited from Harold's hidden generosity. "Harold helped me when I didn't know how I'd pay for my daughter's surgery." The murmurs intensified. Hearts began to soften, and Clara felt that familiar tightness in her throat. Hope surged again. Kevin was lighting the way through the dark. If Harold did all that for us, maybe it's time we do something for our community. We need to honor his legacy, Kevin declared, glancing around, urging them for a response. Clara's pulse quickened. Could this be the moment of change the town desperately needed? She felt it in her bones. The possibility of healing the rift that had long divided them hung like ripe fruit, ready to be picked as the crowd rumbled with passionate discussion. Clara stepped closer, ready to encourage unity. "What do you think we can do together? For him? For each other?" she called out, hoping to weave the fabric of the community tighter. But just then, pain flickered across Kevin's face. "What if we fail? What if all I did was bring light to a shadow only to let it swallow us again?" His question echoed, striking a chord in Clara's chest. Everyone felt it. The fear of attempting change, of the judgment still lurking amongst them. Would they be brave enough to step into the light, or would doubt pull them back into darkness? As they pondered, the once heavy shadows of the past began to dance around them, drawing the edges of their hearts inward. Would they choose to clash against their own biases, or protect what little comfort they had? Clara took a breath, ready to guide them through the madness of emotion swirling in the air. One thing was clear. This community was at a crossroads, and which way they chose might decide their fate and Kevin's future. The moment of awakening was ripe, teetering in troubled silence as Clara braced herself for what came next. Would they rise together or retreat into yesterday? And in the distance, a dog barked, a stark reminder that life continues. Even as they stood on the brink of change, the air felt charged, alive with possibility. Clara glanced around, noticing how faces seemed to flicker between hesitance and determination. They were standing on the edge, and she knew it would take more than just words to push them forward. Before she could speak again, Sarah, a local teacher, stepped up. "What if we could create a community fund? An initiative that could help others the way Harold helped us?" Her enthusiasm sparked a wave of murmurs, a tangible shift. Clara's heart raced as she watched those once skeptical begin to nod, a flicker of hope igniting in their eyes. "Yes," Tommy chimed in, his voice now steadier. "We could pool our resources, host fundraisers, anything to help everyone in need." He gestured animatedly, his earlier reservations dissolving. "I'll help organize," shouted another voice from the back, this time Jim, the town's mechanic, his brow beaded with sweat, but his face held a fierce determination. "Together we can make it work. We owe it to Harold to keep his spirit alive." As Clara looked around, the gravity of the moment settled on her like a warm blanket. They were beginning to gather strength, perhaps from the grief that united them, or maybe from a desire to honor Harold's legacy. Emotional energy swelled in waves, reaching out to encapsulate Kevin and Clara both. Kevin seemed less burdened. A renewed light glimmered in his eyes. It won't be easy, he reminded them, but if we stand together, nothing will be impossible. His voice rang out like a rallying cry, echoing back the hope that had begun to flow through the crowd. Clara stepped forward again, feeling the eyes of the townspeople fix on her. What we choose to do now counts. We can either move forward or allow ourselves to be held back by old beliefs. Her voice quivered with passion as she felt the energy grasping at her heart, urging her on. What do you think, everyone? Shall we honor Harold by creating something beautiful and meaningful together? The crowd broke into a chorus of agreement. The whispers morphed into shouts of encouragement. Clara watched as people raised their hands, eager to contribute ideas ranging from bake sales to community cleanups. But just as the excitement built momentum, the wind shifted. A distant rumble of thunder echoed, a warning that soon became apparent as gray clouds rolled overhead. Suddenly, the sky opened, and rain poured down in heavy sheets, drenching the scene in minutes. While some retreated to seek shelter, Clara remained rooted, seeing only the urgency of the moment. With every drop that fell, she felt the intensity of their resolve wash over her. "It's okay," she shouted over the growing storm. "We can weather this." In a fantastic twist, Kevin smiled and lifted his arms, inviting the rain, mirroring the spirit of the crowd. "This is our sign. We can adapt. Just like the flowers in our gardens, we need rain to bloom." His words bridged the chaos of nature with the passion that filled their hearts. But amid the chaos, Clara's thoughts darkened slightly. Was a sudden storm a harbinger of the struggles yet to come? Would the raw emotion that had kindled a desire for change stand firm against future downpours? With the storm surrounding them, thoughts shifted between unity and vulnerability. Would their commitment endure in the face of trials ahead? As the rain soaked them, Lasbury felt somehow renewed. The storm brought growth, but would their budding endeavor rise from the shadows, or get swept away in the flood? Feeling a sudden jolt of inspiration, she could almost hear the echoes of the townsfolk who had suffered. "We have to remember why we started this. Harold's kindness. His legacy, it matters now more than ever." Just as her words slipped into the misty air, a single clap of thunder startled everyone, snapping them back to the moment. And in that electric silence, Clara knew it was decision time. What would their next step be? Would they forge ahead, rain-soaked and united, or find themselves swept up in the storm of their own fears? Clara's heart raced in the torrential downpour, the air thick with anticipation. The townspeople stood, rain-soaked yet resolute, their eyes glistening with determination. They were not only weathering a storm, they were forging bonds to create something stronger than their individual grief. Suddenly, Tommy's voice cut through the thunder. "Let us make plans. If we start tonight, we can have a fundraiser by next month." His shout rallied the crowd, igniting the promise of action. Faces that had recently been clouded by doubt were now alive with energy. "Fundraising and volunteering," chimed in Sarah, her hair plastered against her forehead. "We can host a neighborhood dinner, sell home-cooked meals, and/or written recipes." Clara interjected, a spark of inspiration igniting her thoughts. "They could belong in a special cookbook, one that tells all our stories." Harold's story. Her voice was rising now, the storm no longer a deterrent but a catalyst for passion. Some in the crowd nodded vigorously. "We could share favorite meals, dishes that remind us of the love he gave, and the lessons he taught us." Someone called from the back. The idea began to spread, like ripples in a pond, each suggestion strengthening their resolve. Kevin stepped forward, his silhouette framed by the continuous flashes of lightning. "No one wants to forget Harold. We want to keep his spirit alive." His voice resonated, powerful amidst the chaos, stirring something deep within everyone. Clara saw her neighbor's resolve solidify, shoulders lifting and chins rising among the turbulent rain. But then, Jim's voice broke through, laced with concern. "I'm in, but what if it's not enough? What if we struggle? There's always doubt, always fear lurking in the shadows." His brows knitted tightly, vulnerability spilling out. Clara felt her gut twist. His words struck a chord. What if they faltered? Could they summon the strength to keep moving forward when the tides turned against them? Fear is part of this process, Clara declared, shifting her stance to edge closer to Jim. We can't ignore it. But if we embrace the fear together, it becomes part of our journey. She looked around at the faces she'd grown up with, friends and neighbors, souls whose lives intertwined with hers. We all remember Harold's laughter. Let us take our fears and overshadow them with the light we create together. A pivotal silence settled over the crowd, the tension of the storm mingling with the weight of her words. Each person was deep in thought, considering how supportive they could truly be for one another. Then Sarah broke the silence, a slight smile brimming on her lips. We'll be scared, but we can't let that decide what we do. The crowd murmured agreement, rising energy pulsing through them. They could face hardship. They could fight the rain and honor Harold. The storm was no longer just a downpour. It was a cleansing, a renewal. Just then, lightning illuminated the area, casting stark shadows. Clara caught sight of a child, clutching a wet toy, eyes wide with wonder even in the weather's ferocity. Look, the child shouted, pointing to a rainbow forming in the midst of gray skies. Hope bloomed in that moment. It was so vivid and unexpected. Clara felt her chest swell. Resilience wrapped itself around her like a warm embrace. They were willing to stand, side by side, come rain or shine. Then it settled, Clara proclaimed, voice steady against the backdrop of nature's noise. The cookbook, the fundraisers will share our stories. As the crowd erupted in cheers, a sense of purpose blossomed. But what none of them realized was that the rain wasn't merely washing away their burdens. It was ushering in an unexpected revelation. At the edge of the lot, shadows lingered, two figures watching with keen eyes. Their intentions remained cloaked in uncertainty. What secrets might they hold? What fate awaits Lasbury as they step forward from the mist? As the storm began to fade, Clara could feel the air shift. The lingering scent of rain mixed with the earth seemed to invigorate her community. She scanned the faces before her, now marked with a renewed sense of purpose. Yet, a chill tingled at the back of her mind, the image of those shadowy figures casting a cloud over her optimism. Let us meet tomorrow at the community center, everyone, Tommy suggested, pulling Clara back to the moment. We can start planning our cookbook and the dinner. We can really do this. The crowd dispersed slowly, the bonds forged in those moments feeling both fragile and vibrant. Clara wrapped her arms around herself as she walked towards her car, aware of the excitement buzzing in the air like static. But inside, a storm brewed that was more than just rain clouds at a tea home. Clara could barely sit still. The echoes of laughter from the crowd replayed in her mind, filling her with hope. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that their reunion was only the beginning. What would they find when they dug deeper into Harold's memory? What secrets might they uncover when they opened up the doors of their kitchens and hearts? The dark evening crept gradually into night as she pulled out her phone, determined to take the first step toward marking them into something tangible. She started a note titled Harold's Cookbook. The blank page stared back at her, challenging her to fill it with love and memories. She jotted down a few ideas, favorite dishes, the stories behind them. Her fingers flew over the screen as each name sprang to life. Kevin's famous chili, Sarah's apple pie, the lasagna her mother used to make every Christmas. Just as she was getting lost in the wave of nostalgia, the sudden ring of her phone pulled her from her thoughts. Clara, to Sarah, I have something to tell you. Her friend's voice sounded urgent, tinged with excitement. You're not going to believe this. Remember that secret Henry told us about at the potluck? The one we thought was just a rumor? Clara's heart quickened. Yeah, what about it? There's truth to it, Clara. I saw something and I think it connects to Harold. Listen closely because this is big. Clara leaned in, her heart racing. Sarah spoke with a rush, and pieces started to come together in Clara's mind. Could there really be something hidden in Harold's past? Something that could change everything for Lasbury? Do you think it connects to the fundraiser? Clara could hardly breathe. The rain had washed away the past, But what if shadows of secrets lingered beneath the surface? I think it just might, Sarah said, her tone serious. We need to investigate further. But we have to be careful. There are things best left undisturbed, and I think this might fall into that category. A flicker of unease settled in Clara's stomach. What do we do now? We meet tomorrow. Let us bring the others in on this. But Clara, we need to be ready. If we're uncovering truths about Harold, we might open a can of worms we weren't prepared for. As Sarah hung up, Clara felt a chill run down her spine. What had she invited into their lives amidst their plans to honor their lost friend? The emotional weight of the night pressed on her. But even through the uncertainty, she knew one thing. The quest for truth often demanded sacrifice. What pieces of their community's heart were they willing to lay bare? The shadows would reveal themselves soon enough, and Clara couldn't help but wonder what else lay hidden under the surface of their seemingly quiet town. The next morning came with a sharpness that Clara couldn't quite shake off. As she made her way to the community center, the streets felt unusually quiet, as if the town itself was holding its breath. The vibrant awakening of the world around her contrasted sharply with the weight that pressed on her chest. Doubts mixed with anticipation as her mind raced with thoughts of Harold and the secrets that maybe lay hidden in the past. When she arrived, the familiar building was alive with chatter and laughter, but Clara felt a clear divide between the festive spirit and her own internal unease. She stepped inside to find Tommy, Sarah, and several others already gathered around a large table strewn with papers and recipe ideas. Their faces lit up upon seeing her. Yet Clara couldn't shake the nagging sensation that something was brewing just beneath the surface. "Clara, you made it," Tommy beamed. "We've got some great ideas already." He waved a stack of papers in the air. "Did you know Kevin wants to include his grandma's secret bread recipe? It's legendary." "Yeah, I heard that. Sounds amazing," she replied, forcing a smile. It was hard to fully engage. She felt the leftover shadows from last night creeping in, and the energy of the room couldn't fully penetrate her walls as they started discussing potential recipes to commemorate Harold. Sarah shifted, glancing toward Clara. "Maybe we also talk about that thing you and I discussed?" She lowered her voice, but the hint of urgency in her tone did not go unnoticed by the rest of the group. The atmosphere grew tense. Everyone turned towards Clara, their looks questioning. "Yeah. About Harold," Clara said cautiously, her stomach twisting. "I think we need to address what we might find, or what we might uncover." Sarah mentioned something significant last night. Tommy leaned forward, his eyebrows furrowed. "What do you mean? Is there something we should know?" Clara took a deep breath, feeling at once heavy with the responsibility of her words, and compelled by the hope that they could unlock something meaningful. "Sarah believes there's more to Harold's past than what we knew. Something that could tie into the fundraiser." A wave of murmurs washed over the group, each face reflecting a mixture of intrigue and apprehension. Clara felt their collective strength hovering just under the surface, ready to propel them into action. "How do you know this?" Kevin asked, his expression earnest. Clara explained what Sarah had said, her heart racing with every word as Clara spoke. She saw a flicker of understanding dance among the group. They were all searching for answers, for connection. It resonated deep within them, a need to know what lay behind the curtain of their own lives. Just then, an unexpected noise jolted Clara from her thoughts. The community door swung open, nearly slamming against the wall, and in walked Ben, the town's historian, his eyes wide with urgency. The conversations faltered as the room turned silent. "I need to tell you all something. It's about Harold and the connection to the fundraiser. I just found something that changes everything." Clara's heart raced, dread and hope intertwining. What more could be hidden? Ben stepped forward, holding a battered notebook filled with scrawled notes and photographs. "What I uncovered might help us understand our community's past and Harold's role in it." The anticipation hung heavy in the air as Clara faced a realization that chilled her spine. They were on the brink of something larger than any dinner or cookbook. They were pulling at threads that could unravel the very fabric of their town. What if, she thought, feeling the weight of her own questions, this could change everything we believe about ourselves? As Ben opened the notebook, Clara realized that whatever secrets lay within its pages could bind them together or tear them apart. She couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows surrounding Harold were deeper than any of them had expected. And as the pages fluttered open, Clara wondered, would they be ready for what was about to unfold? The room felt electric as Ben began to flip through the worn pages of the notebook. Clara leaned in, her heart thumping hard in her chest. The others gathered closer, anticipation painted across their faces. Each person held their breath, ready to dive into a mystery that might reshape everything they thought they knew about Harold. "What is it?" Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. Clara could feel a pulse of energy coursing through the group, stirring a mix of dread and excitement. It was as if they were standing at the edge of a cliff, peering into a chasm filled with unknown possibilities. Ben cleared his throat, his voice steady yet laced with urgency. These notes were kept by Harold himself. He documented various events, conversations, and even some secrets of the town. "Let me show you," he paused, glancing at the first faded photograph. It was of a younger Harold, smiling alongside a woman Clara had never seen before. In her hand, the woman held a small child, his expression full of playful mischief. "Who is that?" Clara asked, pointing at the photo. "Is that Harold's family?" Ben nodded, a shadow passing across his face. "Yes, that's Lydia, Harold's sister, and the boy is his nephew. What's intriguing is the date on this photo. It was taken just weeks before something terrible happened." A sudden chill descended upon the group. Clara felt her stomach knot. What kind of terrible? There was an accident, a fire that took their lives. It's been said that Harold was devastated. But there's more. Ben flipped the page to reveal scrawled notes, some of which were nearly impossible to read. Yet there were hints of resentment and unresolved issues buried in the lines. "Harold lost everything," Ben continued, "but according to these accounts, he was also rumored to have inherited something far more valuable property. A trust fund secrets. Secrets that this town tucked away." Tommy shifted in his seat, glancing between Ben and Clara, processing the weight of their conversation. "What type of secrets?" Ben's fingers paused over the delicate, yellowed pages. "It's all here: relationships, hidden dealings, even accusations of deception. I'm still piecing it together, but it's clear that Harold's life was more complex than any of us realized." The room was silent, each of them grappling with the shock of newfound knowledge. Clara felt a burning question welling up inside her. Why didn't he share this? Why keep it from us? It may not have been his choice. These things can haunt a person, especially someone like Harold, who always played the role of the town's gentle giant. Ben sighed. "But whatever happened back then, it's tied to us now." As Ben continued to read, Clara could see the expressions of her friends shift from curiosity to unease. They sat, waiting for something, anything that could bring them clarity. But the deeper they delved, the denser the fog became. Then Ben's voice dropped. "There's a name mentioned repeatedly, Angelo. I've never heard of him, but it feels significant. He might be linked to Harold's past, and possibly this foundation we're trying to build." Clara felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Angelo. It was a name she did not recognize, but something in her gut tightened, whispering that this was the moment when everything could change. Wait, if Harold was involved with this Angelo, then what were they trying to cover up? Clara said, her voice low but intense. "I don't know," Ben replied, "but if we want to honor Harold's memory properly through this fundraiser, we must uncover the truth. All of it." Clara nodded, determination building within her. They needed to face whatever was hidden in the shadows. It was time to unravel the threads of their town's past, the mystery woven into their lives by Harold's secrets. Her heart raced with the thrill of discovery, but pounded with the fear of what they might find. She locked eyes with Sarah. "We can't back down now. We owe it to Harold." All of them nodded in unison, a quiet pact sealing their resolve. But beneath that, Clara felt an anxious flutter. Had they truly opened a door they could never close? As the conversation deepened, another sound pierced the air. A sudden knock echoed from the community center door. All eyes turned as it swung open to reveal a stranger, a tall figure silhouetted against the light, holding the air of something only half remembered, yet impossibly significant. "Is this the place for the Harold Murray fundraiser?" the stranger asked, their voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of urgency. Clara felt her heart skip. Who was this person? And what role would they play in uncovering Harold's buried past? The answers they sought might be just beyond the threshold, waiting to change everything yet again. The door creaked as the stranger stepped inside, the sunlight pouring in behind them like a halo. Clara squinted against the brightness, trying to make out the person's features. They wore a long coat and an air of mystery cloaked around them, like a fog that didn't quite lift. "Can we help you?" Ben asked, motioning for the stranger to join them. "I'm Martin," the newcomer said, their voice firm but carrying a note of hesitation. "I've been looking for Harold's friends." Their gaze swept across the group, lingering on Clara, as if recognizing something in her. "Friends?" Tommy echoed, eyebrows raised. "We were just discussing him." Martin took a purposeful step forward, eyes glimmering with urgency. "There's something you need to know, something about Harold that he never shared." Clara's heart raced. The air in the room thickened, a palpable sense of tension washing over everyone. "What do you mean?" she asked carefully, her breath hitching in her throat. "I knew him as a mentor, a father figure." Martin glanced down at the notebook in Ben's hands, then back at Clara. "He helped my mother when she was struggling. I always thought it was because of the kindness in him. And now?" Clara prompted, hoping they could finally access what had been hidden for so long. Martin hesitated, fingers fidgeting with the edges of their coat. "I didn't know the whole story until she passed. She left behind a letter, mentioning someone named Angelo. She said Harold had been protecting something for him, something valuable." The connection clicked in Clara's mind, tightening her insides like a vice. So Angelo was connected to Harold? But how? What was it? Harold was part of a larger legacy. Martin continued, their expression shifting to one of urgency. "Not just a quiet life here in town, but something deeper. My mother hinted at a dark chapter tied to a piece of land that belonged to Angelo, and that Harold inherited after the fire." The others exchanged glances, each of them processing the whirlwind of information. "Why didn't he ever mention this?" Sarah asked quietly, a tone of disbelief coloring her voice. "Because," Martin replied, eyes firm and piercing, "there's an element of danger involved. The connection isn't just about what you lose. It's about who's watching. Harold made a choice to shield both himself and the town from whatever entanglements Angelo might have brought." Clara's head began to spin with possibilities. Was Angelo the shadow lurking behind Harold's connection to this town? "We need to find out more about this land, and about Angelo," she said, determination coursing through her. "But how?" Ben interjected. "We don't even know where to start." Martin shifted, pulling out a folded piece of paper from their coat. "My mother left directions pages describing the land and its history. I can't guarantee it's safe, but it may be our only way to truly understand Harold's past." Clara felt her heart thunder in her chest again. Hope flared within her. They could finally piece together the puzzle. "We have to go," she said, her voice steady. As they gathered closer, Martin looked each of them in the eye. "Just know you're digging into something that could disturb more than just memories. Are you all ready for what you might find?" Ben took a breath, glancing at Clara and then the others before nodding. "We have to honor Harold. We're in this together." Martin handed Clara the map, and as their fingers brushed, Clara felt a surge of energy, a spark of destiny. With the weight of the unknown pressing on their shoulders, the group stood on the brink of revelation, ready to confront the past and whatever shadows it might cast. As they turned towards the door, the question loomed. What secrets would they uncover, and at what cost? Clara stepped forward with resolve. "Let us go find out what really happened," she whispered, a fire igniting in her heart. The journey ahead could shatter their understanding forever, but one thing was certain. There was no turning back now. The chill in the air greeted them as they stepped outside, the fading sun casting long shadows on the ground. Clara clutched the map tightly, her fingers tracing the lines as if the paths could whisper the answers to her. Martin led the way, their long coat billowing slightly in the autumn breeze, while Ben and Sarah followed closely, eyes wide with anticipation and dread. "I can't shake this feeling," Ben said, glancing back at Clara. "What if we find something we weren't meant to see?" Clara shook her head, feeling his anxiety settle deep in her bones. "Harold didn't share it for a reason, I get that. But we can't ignore it any longer. We owe it to him." The streets of the small town felt eerily quiet. The usual hustle and bustle had surrendered to an unsettling stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Even the leaves, usually engaging in a lively dance, hung limply from the branches, adding to the heaviness in the air. As they approached the edge of town, Martin turned to face them. "The land isn't far from here. It's tucked away at the base of the old hill." They paused, nervously biting their lip. "But it's rumored to be cursed. It's best to approach with caution." "Cursed?" Tommy laughed, but it rang hollow. The unease was palpable, silencing any more jokes. Clara tried to laugh it off too, but a knot grew in her stomach. "Let us just get to the land and see what it holds. We can face anything together," she encouraged. They continued, passing dilapidated houses and overgrown yards that echoed memories of laughter and life once lived. The heaviness in the atmosphere thickened, each step pulling them deeper into Harold's world, a world they were only beginning to uncover. Finally, they arrived at the edge of the hill. The incline was steep, decadent with foliage and an air of foreboding. At the very top lay a clearing, the remnants of an old outbuilding barely visible through tangled brush. "Here it is," Martin breathed, scanning the area. "This is the land they spoke of." Clara stepped forward. With each step, she felt a pulse in the ground beneath her, echoing with every heartbeat. "What do we look for?" "Anything that stands out," Martin said, pulling out their own flashlight. "An old structure, a marker, even the ground. Sometimes secrets bury themselves deeply." They dispersed, each lost in their thoughts. Clara scanned her surroundings, eyes darting between earth and sky, her senses heightened. They had come this far. Surely, there was something here. As she knelt beside a twisted tree, she spotted what looked like a broken piece of tile, half buried in the dirt. It gleamed faintly in the light. "Hey, I think I found something," Clara exclaimed, scrabbling to uncover it. Martin hurried over, excitement mingling with nervousness in their eyes. "What is it?" "It looks like it's a symbol." Clara brushed off the dirt, revealing intricate carvings that resembled a family crest. Beneath them, the earth felt warmer, almost electric. "Let us draw it," Martin suggested, leaning closer. This could be connected to the legacy Harold kept hidden. Before they could make a move, a rustle interrupted their focus. Tommy, standing a few feet away, looked like he'd seen a ghost. "You guys, you need to see this." His voice quivered, drawing everyone's attention. What he revealed sent a chill through Clara's spine. Just beyond the fringes of the clearing, a weathered gravestone loomed, half hidden in the underbrush. The name inscribed was eerily familiar, sending waves of uncertainty crashing over them. Could this be the secret Harold kept? Who was buried here? As they huddled closer, the air thick with confusion and fear, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that whatever truths lay ahead would inevitably change everything. "Are you ready?" she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. But each of them remained silent, an unspoken understanding passing among them. The past was about to unravel. What other twists awaited them on this treacherous path? As the group huddled around the gravestone, Clara could feel the weight of history pressing down like a heavy quilt. The inscription barely revealed itself through layers of moss and dirt, but as they brushed it away, the name came into view. Lydia Whitmore. Harold's sister, Clara whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. A collective gasp ran through the group, the revelation hitting them like a sudden gust of wind. Kevin stepped back, his eyes wide in disbelief. "This is the family Harold lost in the fire," he murmured, trying to process the gravity of the situation. "He never talked about them, never mentioned a grave." Martin crouched down, squinting at the gravestone and the dates carved into its surface. "This changes everything. If he kept this a secret, why?" Clara felt her heart racing, realization dawning on her like the morning sun. He was protecting their memory. Maybe he wanted to shield the town from knowing the pain, the tragedy that shaped him. As they leaned closer, an eerie silence enveloped them, a stillness that spoke volumes. It was as if the spirits of the past were awakening through the layers of time, longing to be acknowledged. "We need to understand what this means for us," Clara said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "We've been wanting to honor Harold, but we've barely scraped the surface of who he truly was." With renewed determination, Clara looked at everyone. "If we're going to build this community fund, we need to integrate Harold's legacy into it, his family, their story. This isn't just about charity. It's about healing an entire community." Tommy took a hesitant step forward. "But how do we do this? If he kept it hidden, what if there's more pain tied to it?" "Then we face it together," Clara asserted, the fire in her belly igniting with each word. "We fell into whispers and accusations for too long. It's our time to turn this tragedy into something positive. We owe it to Harold, Lydia, and the people who suffered." Around them, the others nodded, nodding to embrace the enormity of their mission. They could feel a string of connection weaving through their shared history and aspirations. Each of them was determined to deepen their bond and uncover what had long been suppressed. "What do we do next?" Kevin asked, his youthful eyes alight with purpose. Martin glanced over the grave, still absorbing the shock of their discovery. "We need to dig deeper into this land and its history, what Harold was protecting, who Angelo was, and how it connects to the fund and our community." Clara nodded vigorously. If Harold completely removed himself from the situation, there must have been a reason. "We'll seek out every lead, talk to older townsfolk, and examine town records. Every piece of information matters. Let us make it a community effort," Sarah added, her enthusiasm infectious. "We can organize a town meeting, share what we've found, gather even more memories or stories. We need everyone on board." The group felt electric with possibility, standing on the hallowed ground that felt like the beginning of a powerful journey toward transformation. They shared a newfound belief that, together, they could resurrect not only a legacy but mended relationships strained by unspoken grief and resentment. After collecting themselves, Clara felt movement ripple through her. The mission ahead was wrought with challenges, but they were ready to shoulder those burdens together. "Now, let us plan our next steps," Clara initiated, guiding their focus. "Each of us will need to bring something valuable to the table, insights from our own connections and experiences." As the sun began to dip below the horizon, the air grew thicker with camaraderie, hope shimmering like the gold-tinted light dancing on the gravestone. Thus began their journey, not just in honor of Harold but toward healing a community long weighed down by silence. As they turned to descend the hill, a sense of purpose enveloped them, promising that this quest would bond them as deeply as any family. They would forge forward and, with every step, dismantle the walls that had so long divided them. It was time for their town to step into the light of understanding, to embrace the past and what lay ahead. Together, they could rewrite their story. They didn't just owe it to Harold or even Lydia. They owed it to themselves. In their hearts, they all felt the stirring of change. It was powerful, palpable, and right on the edge of their grasp. And as they left the grave behind, the evening sky lit up with brilliant colors, a sign of not just a sunset, but the dawn of a new chapter waiting to be written. Don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to catch this incredible journey as it unfolds. Hit that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep these stories alive. We want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this powerful ending, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartwarming transformation. This is your chance to show your support and make an impact. Only true fans understand how much these actions matter.